Welcome back to the FireStorm podcast. We're doing another anime review. When's the last time we did one of these? It wasn't. It was kind of recent.
Oh god, was
Whatever,
it Spicy Wolf? I don't know.
Oh, must have been. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, something like
that. It was kind of recent. There's my air again. We're reviewing season 2 of BLUELOCK because it finished up kind of recently. It ran a little long, 14 episodes, a little longer than most other seasonal stuff. So it's a little more recently finished, and at least in my opinion, it is like the overall most kind of highest point of BLUELOCK so far. So it's really exciting. But yeah, not as well. We'll get into it, I guess. But yeah, we're gonna talk about season 2 of BLUELOCK because I officially hooked Trent on it when I recommended it to him a while back, and I was hooked on it as soon as it came out back in 2022. So it's one of our collective favorites. So we're gonna have a nice little chat about it. So
yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm keen to talk about just BLUELOCK as a whole in general because we haven't really had the chance to talk about BLUELOCK as a whole. And I know you've mentioned it in your monthly, your seasonal roundups.
Yes.
No, you've definitely talked about it. So you would have a collective. You collected all your thoughts together, and I
wouldn't say I've collected them, but yeah, I have thoughts, of course.
Yes, I
have thoughts about many things.
It wasn't hard to get me invested because you've recommended me. You've got to know my tastes quite well, and you know what I enjoy. And if you, as an audience, know anything about me, I grew up playing football or soccer. I was a goalkeeper, and I loved it. Played with my friends and everything. And although not watching a lot of sports anime, when you recommended me BLUELOCK and I heard the premise, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll give it a go. And literally, it was just towards the end of about mid last year, like June or April.
You hadn't watched it when we were hanging out in person. You hadn't.
No. So it was just after I got back. I remember I was house sitting at a friend's place, and I had my Crunchyroll logged in on their TV, and I was like, I'll just start watching BLUELOCK. And over the course of 2 or 3 days, I binged the whole thing of season 1. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is really cool. This is awesome. This is hype. And then a month later, episode Nagi came out in the cinemas, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm in. I'm going. I'm in. I don't often go to watch anime movies at the cinema, but I was locked in. So I went in, I saw it, and I think it is I don't know how it compares to other sports anime, but it's one of the most hype fucking anime I've watched at the very least.
Yeah, I think BLUELOCK is better than other sports anime. I haven't I haven't actually watched the Haikyuu anime or anything like that. I think that's probably the only thing that might compare, just in terms of how long it went and that kind of thing. But I think BLUELOCK is better. I like the premise of BLUELOCK way more than any other sports anime, because a lot of others, basically most other sports anime, are wow, it's all about teamwork and giving our 100% all the time. And BLUELOCK is more about fuck you, I'm the best. And it kind of rules. So it was it's fantastic. So I remember this was it must have been fall 2022 was when it began. So I was well into the seasonal roundups at that point, so I was very much on top of any seasonal anime. And it was actually Hypatoria that messaged me about it at the time, because he had read the manga before the anime even came out. And he was like, dude, you're going to watch BLUELOCK, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's on my list. And he's like, dude, you're going to love it. It fucking rules. And I'm like, all right. So I watched the first episode, and I remember immediately feeling oh man, this is different. This is going to be something else. Literally episode 1, the same day it came out. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be fucking cool. And literally, I think maybe since then, the only other anime / manga that have gotten me as hype as BLUELOCK have been One Piece and maybe Naruto and Bleach, and that's it.
Wow.
And I've read a lot of manga since then, and watched a lot of anime.
Quite literally outside the big three, it's fucking BLUELOCK.
Nothing. Yeah, BLUELOCK. Seriously,
Didn't you
that's
say,
how good it is.
Didn't you say at one point like the manga was outselling One Piece at one point of time?
Last year, no, not last year, 2023. Sorry, it's 2025 now. Fuck.
Yeah, I know. Welcome to 2023.
2023. It was the best-selling manga, passing One Piece. Yeah, the best-selling manga of the year.
That tells you enough. Like that tells you
Yes.
enough that this is something special. Like,
Yes,
if you're able to outsell One Piece, you've fucking got something.
Yes, no, and One Piece was number 2. It was the only, like, it had been the first manga in a very long time. I think maybe Jujutsu Kaisen had done it one year at some point, like probably around when it came out, like 2021 or something like that. I think Jujutsu Kaisen had done it one year, outsold One Piece. But, yeah, I think between that, like, that's where it's at, right? Jujutsu Kaisen and Blue Lock are the only manga in recent years that have outsold One Piece.
Wow.
So, yeah. That kind of tells you how fucking awesome it is. Because it is that good, I think. My manga list now is up to past 200 entries. And the 2 manga I have rated a perfect 10 are One Piece and Blue Lock.
Sheesh.
Those are the only manga out of 200 that I have rated a perfect 10. So,
There you go.
yeah, and I'm caught up as well. I'm current on the manga, so I can sort of weigh in from that perspective as well. It was definitely a lot more hype watching the anime for when I was watching it, like back when it originally came out and I hadn't read the manga, because knowing what was going to happen, it didn't quite make it as hype, but also reading the manga was a very good experience as well. So, like, it was cool to see it in the form of an anime in that sense. It was just a different sort of it was a different experience.
No doubt. Seeing the way like everyone like hypes themselves up, the music, like the epic like rock guitar fucking solos you just hear when people are fucking doing shit, and then the visualizations of everyone's like unique abilities and the way they are demonstrated, and the animation. I know at the very least, the start of season 2 was kind of like shat on for the downgrade in animation, but when I got into the latter half of season 2, I didn't actually notice that much. I was just kind of like, I'm in. Like, I will admit though, like, I did actually watch season 2 at like 1.5 speed, like, which is like, I don't often get the chance to do that. So, like, I watched the entirety of season 1, just straight-laced as it was. I did speed up season 2, and I think maybe that just helped with the apparent animation faults, which, again, I couldn't really tell. But yeah, no, regardless, the premise, you're right, the premise is so unique, and from, like, didn't you say you played baseball growing up, didn't you? Did you play football in any regards, or soccer in any regards?
Yes, I did have a little bit of soccer experience, not a lot, like maybe a couple of years or so when I was really young.
Okay.
But my family's always been semi-involved in sports, so I've always and I have even now I have plenty of friends who are avid watchers of like worldwide soccer. So it's always been like sort of like most sports have always been at least a small part of my life. So, like, and it's America, so we would always have Super Bowl parties and the whole 9 yards. So basically any sport, I'm pretty much at least somewhat in the know, and I do enjoy watching sports games for the most part.
Yeah,
so that includes soccer. So
yes, because like growing up playing soccer, like for I can't count how many years I played it for years, my whole bloody childhood essentially, and as I got older, like. Just having that relation and even seeing, because like the thing is the show and the premise of the show is trying to find the best striker in Japan and making everyone ramp up their own egos to the max so they can outdo themselves and shine as the best they can be. And even when I was younger playing soccer, like as the goalkeeper who has to observe and watch everyone, I saw how egotistical a lot of the strikers I played with were. Like, even the few years I played with the adults, like I was actually in the senior teams for 2 years, and I even just seeing them, like, as people got older and like believed in their own skills, they became a bit egotistical, and just having that prior knowledge and then seeing like an anime ramp that sort of thing up to 12 and take it beyond what you would expect, like like it's over dramatized because it's a manga and anime, like that's the point.
Yes,
but it is so engaging at the same time when you have like I will admit the games themselves, because everyone has like a quote unquote unique ability that is a little bit more, I don't know, absurd compared to real life. Like, yeah, I understand that, like, some of them, like, have the skills to kick the ball in a certain angle that it will always land where it needs to go, or people's reaction times are fucking next level when they're able to get to wherever they need to go. And those sorts of things I can definitely relate, because I know, like, oh, in this team of 11, that person's really fast. They can easily cut through everyone and get right up into the box. And, like, I understand relating those, but yeah, there was obviously, for an anime, a little bit more absurd unique abilities as well, which is to be expected. And but still, it was just so engaging and fascinating to witness Isagi's bloody, like, evolution of him becoming, like, next level, like, from season 1 to the end of season 2. Yep. It was, oh my, I was locked in, like, locked in the whole fucking time, man. I thought it was incredible. So do you want to just talk about season 2, or do you want to kind of cover the whole thing?
I don't really, if you want to talk about the whole thing, you can go for it. Because I probably won't have all that much to add. Because I've already got my thoughts out into the ether with the seasonal roundups. So if you have things to say, then you should say them, because this is BLUELOCK season 2 just ended, but yes, I suppose the only thing I will cover that is beyond just season 2 and a bit before that is we can even talk about this more when just covering season 2, but the characterization, that's the one thing that as a story is so hard to get locked down and get right, is making all your characters feel unique and engaging. And like, I'm comparing this to like something like Demon Slayer. When I watched the most recent season of Demon Slayer and they have flashbacks to the fucking high level demons and their pasts and try to give you some sort of empathy towards them, I genuinely did not give a fuck when I watched that. But then in BLUELOCK, you see the opposing teams that Team Z or whoever it was got to face down, and they're kind of like pricks in their own right. But then you see some flashbacks to like why they do what they do and why they are the way they are. I was actually locked in because it's like it was more humanizing. Like, there was only, like, a pair, the twin pair in one of the teams early on that, like, had really fucked faces that I did not care about. But, like, everyone else who was even given just a little bit of spotlight, I gave a shit about. Like, one of my favorite characters early on was, like, Kunigami, I believe he was. Like, the guy who wanted to become a superhero. And then, like, I was upset when he got eliminated, but then seeing that motherfucker at the very end of season 2, like, that one shot of him, like, holy fuck, is he coming back? What? I was like, yo, let's fucking go. I think that was him, at least, orange hair motherfucker. So, I was locked in, like, maybe it's to do with my upbringing of sports. I don't know, but like the love of sport and the love of anime, just BLUELOCK has made it the perfect combination. And like I am actually compelled to follow on with all these characters. So the way they were introduced in season 1, phenomenal. The developments we got in season 2, also phenomenal. So season 2, now, was that the animation thing I was just talking about? What, because there was a bit of a gap between when I watched season 1 and season 2. Was that prominent throughout, or was that just kind of at the animation
start, like I thought?
thing? Elaborate.
So there was a lot of people complaining that the animation quality was a bit of a downgrade compared to season one. It was just throughout the whole thing.
Well, I mentioned this in the seasonal roundup, but for the most part, pretty much until basically with two notable exceptions, yes, it was a downgrade.
Okay. Yeah. No, fair enough. Because I think that maybe that gap of time between when I watched it, because I noticed at the very start of the arc, until they got to the U-20 match, I did notice there was a bit slower. So
it was definitely present in the U-20 game as well. It was just a lot of it was kind of, it wouldn't be noticeable if you were paying attention to what they were saying, right? Because you also have to read the subtitles and all that. But if it was just certain smaller moments a lot of the times where just maybe throwaway scenes where you would have a character who would need to move into a position, and the quote unquote animation would be essentially a PMG of them sliding across the screen. Or smaller moments where they sort of where a character is having a sort of inner monologue and they don't do anything. In season one, I think there was a little more sort of active in those scenes. They would at least try to do something, but a lot of it just looked like those moments would be just PNGs of the character on the screen, and they would kind of blur it a little bit to sort of give it some kind of motion, but it really didn't look that good. Stuff like that. It would be smaller things in sort of that category that were not really noticeable if you're invested, but they were definitely there. I think the animation downgrade, it does make it slightly less engaging in my opinion, but it's not a deal breaker in any way. I don't think season 1 looked that much better than season 2, but it was a noticeable downgrade.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Yeah,
I was still compelled the entire way.
Because I've said this before. I think the U-20 game is the best part of BLUELOCK, hands down. So if you're invested in the story, you would not even notice. So that's why I'm upset about it, because I think it could have been done way better than it was. Now, of course, there are moments this season had its moments too, but and a lot of the 3D animation in this season, it looked kind of shoddy and thrown together. Didn't really look that good. So stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think this is when I was reading the manga, even since, there's been 160 some odd chapters since the end of the U-20s game in the manga, and I don't think anything has quite reached the heights of the U-20 game since. But I think, not to spoil anything, but I think where the manga's at now is pretty close. It's the best it's been since the U-20 game.
Damn.
But yeah, I think the U-20 game's the best part.
Yes, the U-20 game. I loved the the setup towards it, and watching the fans and the people flood into this stadium, and people buying merch and stuff like that, and because I've been to big games in massive stadiums for Australian football and soccer as well, and stuff like that, and just how 1-to-1 accurate it is for how excited fans get. I was just damn, this feels so real. I'm so locked in, and that's why I'm kind of glad. I watched up until the U-20 game, and then I stopped, and then watched the entirety of the U-20 game in one go last night, and that took a few hours to get through, and it was compelling the whole way. The whole team was both teams were really fascinating to watch, and seeing them strategize and work together. I don't know. They've got a good
it's
formula.
Totally up to personal taste, right? I think you made the comparison to Demon Slayer earlier, and I think this season of BLUELOCK, I think season 1 of BLUELOCK was pretty bad too, but I think this season of BLUELOCK was worse than any season of Demon Slayer with inner monologues. I think the inner monologues in this season were just overwhelming. There was a lot of them, and not all of them mattered. So I think this I've said this to you before. It's completely up to personal taste, right? Like, because I don't think Demon Slayer season 3 or any season of Demon Slayer was nearly this bad, but I didn't mind this because I'm trying to look at it objectively. I don't mind either Demon Slayer or Blue Lock doing inner monologues because I like what's going on, right? So it's completely up to personal investment and personal taste. So I'm just saying objectively, I think this season of Blue Lock had more inner monologue crap, especially some that didn't matter, than any season of Demon Slayer. But
don't get me wrong, there was a lot that didn't matter.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, you probably didn't mind, right? You probably didn't care that much. So
I didn't mind because, like, when the inner monologue of Demon Slayer is all Tanjiro just fucking bitching, in my opinion. Like, every time I hear him in a monologue, half the time it's strategizing, the other half it's him bitching. And then, whereas with Blue Lock, everyone had an inner monologue moment. So I think because it was separated between all the characters, that's why I was a bit more engaged. Because, like, I got all the perspectives rather than just Tanjiro talking to himself.
Right. Well, I think it's also up to personal investment, right? Because I didn't ever feel like Tanjiro was bitching ever. So I think it's completely up to personal investment and personal taste. Like you probably just like Blue Lock way more than Demon Slayer, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying that like it would be unfair to criticize one and not the other. You know?
Yeah. No.
Because they were both bad.
Okay, yeah. I meant, like, the amount of inner monologues was definitely excessive. Like, they needed to pad it out somehow. Because, like, how else do you pad out a 90-minute football game into fucking how many episodes was the U-20? Like, the actual match itself. Like, so they definitely had to pad it out.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, like I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of personal taste. So it's just, like, if you're trying to like criticize one and not the other, that would be unfair. But you know, if you're saying you prefer one to the other, that's totally fine because then it's just personal taste. So, there's nothing. Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with that because I don't mind either one. But it would be like it's just not fair to criticize one and not the other. So but yeah, because Blue Lock season 1 had plenty of inner monologues too, and I never cared. Just like I didn't care with any of Demon Slayer. So it's just That's all I wanted to point out there. But like other than that, like I think a lot of those like visual stuff, like especially a lot of this season isn't quite as fresh in my head, but stuff like doing like Shido's wings and all that, a lot of that is still in the manga, so it's just really cool to see it like all colored out and how they do it in the anime. Just stuff like that I think is really cool. Like Blue Lock has always been incredible with that kind of stuff, just visualizing, like doing the all kind of creative visualizing stuff like that. That like in a sense it actually is almost like Demon Slayer's sword techniques, because in the actual reality, the fucking water or that Tanjiro uses or fire in whichever case or anything like that is not actually there when they're swinging their sword. It's just a visualization. It's the same thing in Blue Lock. So a lot of those, like, and it's more apparent, obviously, because ain't no way Shido's growing wings. But, it's the same kind of thing, right? So I actually really like how Blue Lock does the creative visualizations like that. I think it's really cool. It, like, adds to the impact of of those big moments. And there's a lot of really cool things, like, in mentioning Shido, I just love how much everything intertwines in the U-20 game, right? Because Shido going to the other side to the U-20 side is such a twist, because it's such a good twist. Like, Sai looking for someone completely unpredictable is such a cool thing, because like you totally get from his perspective, right, where he's like just completely outclassed everybody in his mind, and he's looking for someone who he can't understand or he can't predict and easily outclass like he does everybody else. So that adds such a unpredictable wrench into the situation, and just increases the drama like so much. That's one of my favorite parts about the setup to the U-20 game is Shido's defection. Such a cool thing they did there. Great idea.
And seeing how like Shido latched onto Sai as well after he scored his first goals, like, this is fucking hype, I'm gonna come. And he was just like, yo, Sai, you're my fucking boy. Like, and Sai was actually kind of like, yeah, okay, good. Like, I like you as well, my guy. Like, just keep doing your shit. Like, seeing them actually connect, and then Rin's just like, what the fuck, bro? You're my brother. What the fuck? Like, it was, I was in it the whole time. I was like, dude, this is so good. Like, the whole thing with Shido was really good. I loved it.
That is one of my favorite parts of the setup to this game, but also, like, just everything from, like, how Ego, like, arranges the positioning of everybody comes into play later, like with how Isagi and Rin were supposed to be like the two front men, like trying to sort of help each other and connect their play styles and stuff, and then that coming into play at the very end with Isagi's last goal. Everything comes together in such a really satisfying way in the U-20 game. And even, like, I think even the most, minor of characters, especially on the BLUELOCK side, get to contribute, at least in some significant way, to the flow of the game and, like, their eventual win. So I just think it's just the most well-crafted part of the story so far. Everything was done so perfectly and even exceeded expectations, right? Because they didn't have to let Shido go to the other side, but doing that just throws such an interesting wrench into everything, and just it even makes their victory that much more satisfying, because Shido had been such an anomaly up till now, and no one had really been able to do much about him. So it was I just really love how everything works together in this game. I wish I could talk a little bit more, but I don't. This is one I will actually not spoil for you. So
that's fair enough. Yeah, because I actually am locked
Yes.
in, because I know I'm keen for what's it called, the Neo Egotist League or whatever it's called, like the next
Neo Egoist League. Yep.
Egoist League. Yeah, the next arc I am very excited for whenever that happens. Also, very quick shout out to the episode Nagi. The movie was also very, very good. I just want to quickly mention. The pairings of a lot of these characters is another thing that I actually really enjoyed, because the whole thing about it can be only like one fucking best striker, and then getting to this point, like how actually a lot of them have made sort of like pairs, especially Isagi, like with him and Bachara. I don't know why I fucking love it whenever they do fucking team shit, like working together, that pair. And then like Isagi and Nagi as well, and then Rin in the U-20 game. Rin discovering his ego, that transition of like the way he was thinking about like, it's like having rivals and having opponents and like having friends, and then everything just breaks down. He's like, fuck that. That I actually did not see that coming, and then he just went fucking wide-eyed, tongue out, and he just went nuts. The shit is able to get you hype in a way I did not expect, because like that's the fucking gem that is BLUELOCK, is that it's able to get you hype around things you just would not expect. And the way Rin has been built up the whole way until that point when he was just pushed over the edge and discovered his ego, like that, like the way he's characterized, then it fucking sent me. I was like, I'm not even like doing anything else. I'm just like chin on my hands, fucking I'm watching. I'm fully locked. Like just the way they're able to make people evolve. Like I'm curious to see like how much more they can go in the next few arcs, because I don't like, everyone's kind of like discovered their ego at this point. I'm curious like what they have to do next.
I wish I could tell you, but it's I think the direction they take the Neo Egoist League in is really good. It's a very slow burn, because even now, I think I just read chapter 288 this week, and I think the U-20 game ends around. Where are my volumes of BLUELOCK? It ends in volume 17, which would be probably close to like 150-ish, around there, chapter 150. So it's been 130 chapters since then, I want to say. Probably, if not, it would be around chapter 140. So it's been at least probably around double the amount of content of Blue Lock is already out for another, like, what, 30, 40 episodes. So, yeah, I think it's a very slow burn. So 288, like, we're sort of in the climax of the Neo-Egoist League. So it's still going on.
Damn.
But, yeah. So, because it's a long one. And, but it's split into a lot of different kind of it's split into a lot of big games. So, but yeah, I think the one that's going on now is the best one so far. I'd love to talk more about it, but again, I won't spoil it if anything for you. Yeah, I think it's been fantastic. I just think, again, I don't think part of it is definitely that I'm reading week to week, because I think if I binged the manga up to this point, I might even think that this current ongoing game in the manga is as good as the U-20 game, because it's just, reading week to week and with occasional breaks, it kind of doesn't have the same flow to it. So, especially because in Blue Lock's case, every episode is usually about 3 to 4 chapters worth of content. So, if not more sometimes. So, like, a chapter of Blue Lock is like 6 or 7 minutes maybe of time in of what an episode would be. So, if that. So, it's such a balance, but I don't think it's done anything. It hasn't done anything to, like, detract from what it's already done, right? So I think it's doing exactly what it should. So, but yeah, a lot of the Neo-Egoist League has been building up to what's going on now. And again, I don't want to say too much, but if you watched until the very end, it involves that character who got teased at the very end of episode 14 of season 2. So very exciting.
Yeah. You're not able to just say the premise of the Neo-Egoist League.
Oh, do you want me to actually talk about it a little bit?
You're more than welcome. Like, just mention, like, at the very least, say what the premise is.
Okay, so essentially, here I'll sort of tease you a little bit. So the Neo-Egoist League is basically, so now that Blue Lock is on the radar, right? They've beaten the Japan U-20s. They are on the global radar. I don't know if it was actually ever said outright, but I do believe the Blue Lock game was supposedly streamed worldwide, or broadcasted worldwide, or whatever. However, soccer games are usually done. So now that it has some amount of global renown, and the whole deal was Ego, since his team beat the U-20s, his project, that being Blue Lock, would receive a fuckload of backing, and additional backing than it had already, right?
Right.
In terms of funding. So because of that, they expand like a bunch. So they bring in actual teams from across the globe, U-20 teams from across the globe. I don't know if I believe they're made up teams, but they're from actual countries. So, and of course they explain it away by, like, giving everybody earpieces that can automatically AI translate languages or whatever the fuck. Who cares? That doesn't matter. But they do that whole bit, and so they bring in all these teams. I don't remember the exact premise of it, but essentially they mix and match. So I believe they bring in 5 teams from across the globe, 5 U-20 teams, in addition to some of the best actual major league, I don't know what you call it, but like main league, pro league soccer players that are associated with those countries. So I believe there's like one from Germany, one from France, etc. So essentially everybody who survived that first few rounds of selections in Blue Lock gets to pick which team to join. So they, from out of the 5 or whatever, however many there are. And so it's split up in a pretty unique way. So, not everybody you would expect would be on the same team, right? So I think Isagi is only, obviously it follows what Isagi does. The people who end up joining his team are like few. Like, not a lot of existing characters join the team he joins.
Okay.
But yeah, so that introduces a lot of new characters. But fortunately, one of my Dark Horse favorite characters does go with Isagi, and that's Hiyori, the light blue haired boy. I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Hiyori. I think he's really just such a nice match with Isagi's playstyle. So they join the same team, and so the catch there is after they pick their teams to join, I believe they have a round robin type of thing. I don't know if it's called a round robin something or other, but basically every team plays each other. So
yeah, it's a round robin. Yeah.
So every team plays each other, but before that they have to like qualify. So the people from BLUELOCK who joined the U-20 teams, they do like sort of inner trials, like trials within those teams with the existing players from those U-20 teams to determine the best 11 players among all of those people, right? Some of them from BLUELOCK and some of them from the U-20s. So they have to do they have to go through these like little trials to qualify for the main 11. So that happens, and then after that they do the round robin, so every team plays each other. So where it's at now is the last of those 4, I think. I believe it's only been the big 4 so far. But yeah, the last of those 4 big matches. And of course, Isagi's team is against the team that Rin and Shido are on.
Okay.
Yes. So that's where it's at now.
Oh, that is a bit of a Reed and Shido.
Rin, Rin, Rin. You call him Rin.
Rin and Shido. That's an interesting pair.
Yes. So they're on the same team, but there's also a catch. So I believe the whatever team Isagi joins has the de facto best soccer player or best striker in the world on it. I believe his name is Noel Noah. I don't know if his name has been thrown out in the anime at any point so far. It might have been. I can't remember. But the caveat.
Yeah, sorry. You keep going.
Okay. Well, the caveat is essentially you are allowed. So he's like an adult pro league soccer player. The caveat, you're allowed to substitute in the master. They're called the quote-unquote masters, and each of the 5 teams has one. You can sub in the master to play with everybody for about, I think, 5 minutes at any point in the game. So that is sort of that's sort of the catch to everything that kind of plays into how everything unfolds. So that kind of makes it a little more interesting. So, but I believe also part of it, I think the very first thing that'll happen whenever the BLUELOCK anime comes back is, this is so goofy. I don't know who exactly does the plays like on Isagi's team, but like one of the first thing that happens is some players from BLUELOCK play against those 5 masters all on the same team. So like it's a 5-on-5 ordeal. And get obliterated, like absolutely fucking destroyed. So, it's not even.
Didn't something like that happen?
It might have been It might have been in the end. I can't remember.
I think it did happen. I remember that happening.
Okay.
Like there was like a British guy, a different other guy. Like
I believe
it was a 5-on-5,
at least.
and they got...
Yeah, I believe at least one of those guys, maybe 2, come back as masters. So
Okay.
yeah. So that's the whole Neo Egoist League thing. I think it's been a very slow burn. Like I said, like each of the games has really taken its time, and now we're finally on the last of all of them. And honestly, it's done a good job with evolving Isagi, at least. Because he's really been, the one we've been following. Like Bachira, Nagi, and Ryo, obviously Rin and Shido, and I think I forget his name. Hime, the red-haired boy who runs fast.
Chiguri?
Yeah, Chigiri. Yeah, they're all on different teams, I believe. So, basically all of the 4 games has featured all of those major 4 games have featured like Isagi facing up against basically major players from earlier on in the series. So it's been like a few at a time. But yeah, I believe I don't want to say too much about Kunigami either. your favorite guy, but he does come back, and I believe he's on the team. He's on the same team with Isagi. So
sweet, awesome.
Yeah,
no, that's really cool. I don't know. Does it still kind of work in the original premise of finding Japan's best striker? Is that still the overall goal, or is that kind of just...
So the bit of it now is, so in addition, I completely forgot about this, but this does exist because it's not really addressed too much. But there is a thing where so now since the Neo Egoist League is streamed, it has like an app, so it's streamed globally, and you can watch the games live. And what happens is actual U-20 teams, or no, maybe even Pro League teams, will make bids for BLUELOCK players, and I think U-20 players also. But they'll make bids and say, here's how much we'd pay you to join our team. And here's how much you'd make per year. Here's what your salary would be. And, it goes up into the multi-millions. I think it even gets in the double-digit millions of yen or maybe dollars. I imagine it would be dollars because I think they convert it. But either way, that's how their worth is measured, essentially. So everybody who's playing, or at least from BLUELOCK, are strikers. So whoever is the de facto number one, who has the highest bid from any team, is essentially like the best in BLUELOCK. And honestly, I think from where it is now, I think the only thing it has to do after this final game, the only major thing, is I think they need to have Sai come back. And they need to obliterate Sai. I think that's really the only thing that the manga... I think it could keep going beyond that, and it might, because, again, it's selling really well, so who knows how long it'll go. But I think in terms of the story as it's been told so far, I think this could be the penultimate game of the whole series, and it would be perfect. But...
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
But...
Yeah. Because I remember in... during the U-20 match, it was like at one point where BLUELOCK was down a goal or so, and then Isagi ran to Ego and was like, what do we do? And then Ego was just like, well, you've already won, because you're all going to get a lot of attention from this. Like, yeah, I'll fade from to obscurity, but all of you will get picked up no matter what. And so, like, that made me think, like, okay, wait, has the goal shifted now? It's no longer about just finding an individual best striker, but elevating the new level of, like, high level of Japanese soccer stars. And
no,
like,
that was a test. That was a test on his part.
Yeah.
Very
yes,
clearly.
and then seeing Isagi being like, actually, no, I want to win this match. Fuck you. And then he's like, all right, let's fucking win.
Well, because that's what Ego has been cultivating the whole time. He's been trying to get them to focus on their egos on the right here and now, and not on some like dream or whatever. Because that's why they kept making fun of the U-20 Ace Boy for. Remember, he would just be like, "Oh, you're gonna marry a pinup model and live a happy life, and you're not gonna play soccer after 20. Goodbye, fucker," because you don't take it seriously. So that was Ego's test to like make sure that he had been doing his thing right and cultivating those egos the way he wanted. Because if they had settled, like if Isagi had just been like, okay, well, I see your point, you were being very logical about that makes sense, then Ego hadn't done his job, right? So
yeah,
I think that was the test.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that transition of just like, I no longer want to marry a model, I want to marry a Hollywood model. That got me. Like, it, a bit of an underrated comedic charm does BLUELOCK have. But no, that sounds very cool. I'm very, very excited for whenever that happens. It sounds like though the Neo Egoist arc could last 2 seasons, if that. Like, it sounds like it could go for a while.
It'll go for a while.
So, well, you said the U-20, like, the match itself was, like, one of the best, but at least in regards, Season 2 was not as good as Season 1? Is that what you're saying?
I think yes. I think overall Season 1 was stronger, partly because, not just because of the animation, and I think, well, and I mentioned this when I spoke about it in the roundup, but I think it redeemed itself almost with that final sequence when Isagi scored. Basically everything from Rin and Sai's final face-off until Isagi scores was actually really good. Like, in term, not just compared to everything else we'd seen in the season so far, but even just in terms of animation in general. I thought it was fantastically done. That final sequence. Like, it was a complete, like, it was a jarring shift. Because the whole season, basically, except for a moment, like, I think it was episode 7, maybe, where they were telling Rin and Sai's backstory, that animation looked pretty good as well. But it was a jarring shift, because every other moment had basically looked like a bunch of fucking PNGs and, stock effects, for the most part. But then it shifted, and the screen got a little thinner, and they all of a sudden people were actually running in 2D. There was actual motion happening, and it was really, really good. But it almost redeemed itself in that sense. And I think basically most of the budget went into that scene, which it absolutely should have, because it's the best fucking scene in the whole series. But I think season 1 was probably stronger overall, because I think it flowed better, for one. It just the amount that there was in it, like the way, for that 24 episodes had such a nice gradual evolution from selection to selection, and it was constantly like building on itself and that kind of thing. It just was such a strong foundation that it was building as we were watching. And I think even though season 2 does build off really well, I think the U-20 game in itself, it almost didn't need to happen, right? Because I think basically the only reason it happened was because people were fucking, like, the people who are backing the BLUELOCK project, the old geezers who were getting impatient, were fucking tired of it not producing any visible results. And that was they were like, hey, you have to have your players play the U-20 game, and if you lose, we're fucking, we're destroying the BLUELOCK project. You're not gonna
and we're getting say in on it as well, so fuck you.
Yes, exactly. So it almost didn't even need to happen. It was only because a bunch of fucking geezers were like getting impatient. So in that sense, in the overall storytelling, it's easy to look back on it and be like, oh wow, so yeah, that was a big turning point and everything. But overall, I think the experience watching season 1, just because it was almost because of the novelty of it, even watching it for the first time, it looked better, for one. I think because it looked better, it was a little more engaging visually, and I think it was just a better build on itself. Whereas, like, there was 10 episodes of the U-20 game or something like that in this, which is a lot. So and it was worth it, right? Like, I think I'm not, definitely neither were bad. Because the story of the U-20 game alone is enough to carry it, because BLUELOCK is that good, but it was definitely a little less engaging, I found, than season 1. At least when it's episode to episode, because I was watching every week, once a week, and not all individual episodes were like satisfying, which I think is why the way you did it is the better way to experience it. So
yes, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah, you're right. The compelling narrative of season 1 carried it, and like carried along with the animation and everything. Like,
yes,
season 1 was just a perfect, complete package for like just an anime with this sort of idea. Like, it was a complete package. And like the U-20 game, like that's why, like, the first 2 episodes of season 2, I was like, whatever, that just looks a bit worse. I definitely was just like, they've definitely rushed this, like,
yes.
But then the U-20 game actually hit, and then I got a bit compelled, and I was able to put aside the little bit lacking animation. Also, it helps that I hadn't seen season 1 in like 6 months, so I kind of forgot how awesome it looked. But that's fine.
Well, I hadn't seen it in a year and a half, so think about my problems there. I could tell it was a downgrade.
I hope they just take their time with.
No,
the
that's
next
absolutely
season.
what they should done. Because this is another thing I mentioned in the roundup. Doing this season as soon as possible is a completely understandable decision on the part of the creative team who are in charge of this, because at this point, the Neo Egoist League, starting that up is such an endeavor. It is an endeavor and a half, because it's everything that Blue Lock was from the U-20 game until where it is currently is the Neo Egoist League. So when you transition to the Neo Egoist League, it is a whole ass undertaking. So basically, and it's a really satisfying point, right, where season 2 left off, because like we have a tease for what's coming up next, but we know Blue Lock's going to continue. Isagi's at like the sort of taking charge, taking the lead of everything. It's a really satisfying point to end on. And, leaving it off on season 1 with the cliffhanger, like, here comes the U-20s, you guys are probably fucked unless you get your shit together. That was a big cliffhanger at the end of season 1. So doing season 2 to capitalize on that as soon as possible makes complete sense. But because they rushed it, just the visuals took such a massive hit for it. And it's a shame. But that said, like I said, it's completely understandable why they did it, because I would have, in terms of, reasoning, I completely makes sense, because now they can essentially take as much time as they need to work on the upcoming seasons, which I think they will do. So, because it would be foolish not to do more Blue Lock anime with how well the manga sells. So,
I have no doubt there'll be more anime.
Yes.
Because I'm just hoping there'll be more time dedicated to it, because you're right, season 1 episode Nagi, then season 2, like in reality it didn't take long for them to all come out between each other.
Yes.
2
years.
Fucking
38 episodes in 2 years plus a movie.
Fuck, that's a lot. That is too much. So from what I understand, it sounds like, at least if they approach the Neo Egotist arc, like in the manga, do you do see more matches that aren't just Isagi's, or do you only see Isagi's matches?
I believe you only see Isagi's in detail. I do believe they spend a little time analyzing some of the other matches, but not a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And if it's a round robin, you'll get to see a fuck ton of matches then, depending on how many teams there are.
Yes.
That'd be fucking sweet. I'm very excited. Who are your favorite characters, out of curiosity? You said the light haired
Hiyori.
boy.
Hiyori's such a
Hiyori.
What a lad. Love him. I think my favorite character is Nagi. I think he has such a relatable. He's maybe not relatable because he has fucking God-given talent, but I think like his, especially as it's presented in the episode Nagi storyline. His arc of being so unmotivated and not really have anything that gets him hyped up to, having that finding out things don't always go just the way he wants it to, just because he has talent. Like sometimes he has to try to get what he wants, and like finding the motivation to get to aim for what he wants. I think it's a really cool little arc. So I think I would like Reo more if he wasn't a dickbag, but he does have like a cool sort of the foundation of his character is it's a cool idea for a character. So
I thought the same when Rio, him in the movie, and then what he did in season 1. I was kind of like, he's alright, but he's a bit of a dickbag. And then seeing him in the U-20 game with his ability to copy people, I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute, I'm back. That's actually fucking sick. I'm back. But Kunigami and Nagi, you're right. Those are my favorites. The episode Nagi movie, I don't know how necessary it was. I don't know, I don't think any other characters get special side stories. I don't know if they do.
No, well, the episode
I don't know.
Nagi is a manga.
So is it the only one that's actually focused on a character that's not Isagi?
Yes, I believe so.
So I don't understand why there's this emphasis on Nagi, but I mean, fair enough. It was enjoyable. He's definitely a bit more compelling as a main character and as a
well,
I
think Nagi is he's such a unique character. I don't think I can name another character in any anime who's like Nagi, where he has just this God-given talent to basically do anything he wants. But he doesn't have the proper motivation and just doesn't care enough to actually try. Because most of the time, I feel like characters who have God-given talent would just either not try and succeed. But the difference with Nagi's arc is that he does end up having to try, even though he has God-given talent. So I think that's just a really cool arc. Like, just, adding his effort and determination on top of his talent, I think is just a really cool idea. So that's why I really like Nagi. I think I think his abilities, like his his trapping ability and all that, like especially when you see his goal, like his first goal in the U-20 game, you're like, fuck, this man is cracked.
Yeah.
So I think
like, of course it was fucking Nagi. Let's go.
Yeah, and even that, like, just think of the pacing of the U-20 game. Like, Nagi has the perfect build and like abilities to immediately grab the attention and score the eye-catching first goal of the game. It's just paced masterfully. Like, everything about the U-20 game is fucking it's so intentionally well crafted. It's unreal how good it is. So, yeah. I just think everything has such it feels like every action has a purpose behind it. Just so good. It's paced unbelievably well. Yeah, but Nagi's fucking awesome. I think he's so just every time I see that man score a goal, I'm like, chill. What the fuck, bro? Leave some talent for the rest of us.
That whole sequence of like him scoring his first goal, that fucking trick he did before he launched up and kicked the goal. I was like, yeah, everyone, look at this boy, look at him, and that like the way everyone in the crowd fucking froze for 2 seconds and then leapt to their feet, and everyone's just like, holy fuck, wait a minute, BLUELOCK, we actually got to take them seriously, let's go. And Nagi being the one to actually make people realize like, oh wait, hold on, there is talent here. Yes. Like that. I don't know. I like the way they brought that back around. I'm just surprised they didn't do anything like that, like the side story, for any other character. Like, because I would like to see more of the other characters. Like, I was compelled by Chigury's story in season 1, like of his injury and like working through that, and Bachara unleashing the monster and stuff like that. So like, I'm surprised they put such a heavy emphasis on Nagi, but I'm not unhappy.
Yeah,
about
I think the only thing that, especially when you watch the movie, the episode Nagi movie is like the first 30 minutes, right? Because that's the only thing that we see that we really didn't see in season 1, right? Everything else we'd basically seen for the most part, unless it's just like a small scene of Nagi like questioning himself, like, oh man, am I gonna have to try? Like, what do I really want to do? Do I really love soccer? Is soccer the thing that's gonna get me fired up, etc.? And really, because I'm also up to date with the episode Nagi manga, and really all it's been was so far, it's actually just been more soccer for the most part. So obviously, Isagi gets caught at the end of the last selection or whatever in season 1. They pick Isagi to join their team after his team with Nagi and them loses, right? So they pick Isagi to go up with them. And episode Nagi covers Nagi and the rest of the teams climb back up in that selection. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's what it's been mostly so far. Aside from like those first 30 minutes of the movie. So... But yeah,
no, that makes sense. I guess giving another way to view other characters that we don't get to see, using Nagi as the main in that situation, that's fair enough.
Yeah,
I get that. All right. Fuck yeah, BLUELOCK, fellas! It's so much fun. I'm excited for more. Thank you for getting me hooked. Like it's one of those anime which is just like, I don't know. There were some moments of just like, I think it was Shido or like one of the other blokes who was just like wide-eyed, tongue out, fucking like crunching their toes in the fucking grass, and I'm just like, yo, this is kind of gay. And but then they fucking pull out some epic shit and shoot fucking awesome goals and fucking talk crap. and I'm just like, all right, I don't give a fuck. This is awesome. Like, I can understand from the point of view of like any audience member why this would be compelling. Like, this kind of like endears itself to every anime fan in a different way, because it has aspects that would be appealing to most anime fans. That Blue Lock is just another level. It is one of the, like, season 1 at least is one of the few I've rated as a 10 on my anime list as well. So I'm fucking keen for what else comes.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. I just hope they give it a little more time to cook. So, because I don't want another season that looks like this.
No, let them cook. Let them cook.
I think they will. They probably learned their lesson. There was probably a good amount of backlash for it.
Well, that as well, and also because there was 10 episodes shorter, maybe they thought they could get it out sooner.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe a 24 episode fucking season 3 based on based on the egotist arc. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe it needs to be a bit more than maybe 30 episodes. Who knows? But yeah. I think I've said my piece. Do you have much more you need to?
No. If you want to hear more about I mean, in much shorter order, if you want to hear more about what I think of Blue Lock, I believe the roundups I covered them in are fall 2024, of course, and it would be winter 2023 would be the seasonal roundups where I talked about Blue Lock. So that's where I say my piece, at least in a much shorter fashion. But there's a lot more I like a lot of the details, like getting to talk about, say, like mention how I love the pacing of this game, of the U-20 game, is just, it's smaller stuff like that I don't mention on the roundups, where I'm like, yeah, like it's cool to mention smaller stuff like that, like little pieces that, you know, people may not always pick up on, but when you look at it as a whole, it's so easy to be like, wow, it looks like, it just feels like it was crafted so perfectly. So it's stuff like that I like to mention and point out. But yeah, I just think it's one of the very few manga and anime I've read / seen that I think don't do anything wrong. I think it just doesn't do anything that detracts from what it had built. I think it builds up the characters in a way that it just makes perfect sense. And I think just because of the nature of it, it doesn't really need these like crazy, super deep characters, right? Like, these guys just like soccer and play soccer and they want to be the best. That's it. That's their characters. Done. And some of them have some backstory that kind of explains how they are, like why they are the way they are. Like in Reen's case, in Ryo's case, stuff like that. But it's not like Isagi has some crazy backstory. He was just some kid that should have taken a shot at his middle school finals goal or whatever when he passed it instead. He was just like, man, I should have fucking shot that goal. He's just some kid. That's all he is. Like, he's not really this crazy character. He's just some guy, and that's all he needs to be. Like, it's just because of that. It's just such a very like elegantly simple way to have its characters, and it's because everybody's so unique as well. It very, like, all the characters are very distinctly unique. It's just got a good setup the way it's done. So it doesn't need these like crazy, insane characters. And yet, even despite they're not very deep characters, you still get really invested in them because they have the determination to back up what they want to do. So,
and seeing like the backstories you do see, and getting compelled and like captivated by a good majority of the cast, but then only seeing parts of their journey, because we're seeing the entirety of Isagi's journey, it makes you pine for more. Like, I want to know what goes on for, like, Kunigami, for Bachara, for Chiguri, and episode Nagi, like, was a good extra addition for Nagi, but I'm just, like, that's why it makes me want, like, I want an episode Chiguri or an episode Bachara in the future, like, some other perspectives as well for these other characters that are awesome. And you're right, like, they're not complicated in any regard, but they're all compelling, and you see just enough of them to be like, fuck yeah, that was sick, can we get more? So I think that's why I'm also very eager, because, like, I have no doubt that in this new cast that gets brought in for the Neo Egotist League, that I will find and be like, oh yeah, some of these guys are really fucking sick, I can't wait to see more of them as well. But Yeah, well, like, it's obviously, I even still occasionally think, like, what was that one motherfucker who, like, on the episode 1, who was, like, the emperor of, like, the Japan young boys or whatever it was, who entered with Isagi, and then Isagi fucking killed him,
Yeah.
and, like, to enter into BLUELOCK. Like, I still occasionally think, like, what is that motherfucker doing? Like, is he just chilling? Like, is he gonna come back at any point? Probably not. But it's like, because he didn't even make it into BLUELOCK. But, yeah, the characterization and, like, the way, the compelling storytelling is just on another level. So, yeah, everything BLUELOCK, I'm keen. I just want more.
Yep.
So, well done. BLUELOCK is fucking awesome. If we've said our pieces, we'll thank you for joining us here for this episode of the FireStorm podcast. Let us know your opinions on BLUELOCK as a whole, or just season 2, in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. 2025, we're very excited for it. We're both in new locations. We're both set up a little bit differently, and we're both eager to do more. We're very excited for this new year. And very excited for more BLUELOCK. It's probably not coming out this year, probably next year.
God,
or
no.
the year after. God,
I'd be surprised if it came out next year.
It'll probably get, like, announced at the end of this year for, like,
Maybe
end of 2026 or something. I don't know. Like, at this rate, but, like, who the fuck knows? But yeah, thank you all very much for joining us. We will see you.
Oh, wait!
Next one.
I have something very important to add.
Oh, shit! Never mind! What's going on?
It's just one last thing. I have something very important to add. Who wants to see
Okay.
my desktop wallpaper? Ready?
Oh. What?
I love Henri! Okay, that's it.